Hey, this is Jim McDonald. Welcome to episode 230 of the PowerCast. This episode continues our conversation with Dr. Andy Galpin. It kicks off with Mark asking him what things he thinks actually work. And then later on, we get into things he thinks don't work, or at least probably don't work. And then talks about the things that seem to work for some people, but don't have proof behind them, and how you actually approach that. There's something we talked about in the course of this episode that I want to clear up a little bit. We talked about fiber, and we talked about fiber speeding things up in your gut. And fiber does not always do that. Fiber regulates, so it can actually slow things down. If you have like issues where you need to slow things down, fiber can do that as well. It's not always constantly pushing things through your gut. Having gotten that out of the way, enjoy this episode, like and share. I'll be back on Wednesday with a new episode. Oh yeah, in the course of this episode, we forgot to get to a couple of points about where to find Andy. You can find him at Dr. Andy Galpin on all the social medias, and his website is andygalpin.com.
Support for this episode of the PowerCast comes from Precision Nutrition, home of the world's top nutrition coaches. Head over to get.pn/PowerCast for a free nutrition course, especially for PowerCast listeners, focusing on the role of carbs. That's get.pn/PowerCast. Reebok.com, home of the legacy lifting shoe, the official shoe of the PowerCast at Reebok.com. 8Man Strong apparel for people who lift heavy weights at 8manstrong.com. Compex Muscle Stim products at CompexUSA.com. Use the code PowerCast for an additional 28% off all but the lowest price model. HowMuchYouBench.net. Use the code PowerCast for 15% off slingshots and free shipping on orders over $100. And Bodybuilding.com, the world's largest fitness website and supplement store. Bodybuilding.com has free plans for every level. Visit bodybuilding.com today to become your best self.
Recorded live in West Sacramento, California, this is Mark Bell's PowerCast. Standing just to the left of Jim McDee, here's your host, Mark Bell.
What are some truths that you've seen, at least for now, like within athletes, like let's just say deficiencies of like vitamins or minerals? Like, have there been some truths where you're like, okay, I've worked with about 400 people, and about all 400 people have been, they could have stepped up their vitamin D or whatever.
Yeah, well, actually, funny you mentioned vitamin D.
And does it have any positive effect? Even?
I'm sure you didn't see one of my, I think, more recent posts.
I'm all about that
on the
D.
social media, dude. Yeah, you are.
Hey, now
you're gonna be all about it in a few minutes. Just kidding.
Something's gonna happen.
I just looked into his eyes in the most amazing way, and he was like, "Okay, this went from funny to like kind of uncomfortable now. Like, I'm not really sure I know this dude that well."
Well, we both always are prepared. These are tearaway.
Yeah, they just rip right off.
Our shorts are,
and they're edible, just in
edible.
case. Yeah,
strawberry flavor.
Get hungry. Yeah. Strawberry.
What the hell was
low glycemic index?
I have no idea what was
we're talking about vitamin D.
So a guy named Graham Close, who does a lot of vitamin D research, just came out and basically said, hey, I think we're actually measuring vitamin D wrong. And so he's calling for basically a reset of all that.
Right.
And I don't know, like, I'm not an expert there. He may or may not be right. But in my career, as I look back through history, generally when people do that stuff, they tend to be right. So it's like, maybe we need to rethink this whole vitamin D thing again.
Right.
Damn it. But to answer your question, like, creatine to me has been pretty much like I've seen very little problems with that ever, and I've seen a lot of benefit.
So, like, just going back to vitamin D, it's like something that we get from the sun.
Yep.
People have identified, like, hey, it might be a better idea to take more vitamin D.
Yep.
They put vitamin D into milk and other products,
Fortified
cereals, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I myself have implemented more vitamin D. But just because perhaps taking vitamin D solves one problem, maybe it causes 7 other problems.
That's right? Exactly right. Especially when you take things at what we'll call super exogenous levels. So this is anything that you would get beyond above food.
The answer lies in the middle.
Right. So
this is the worst podcast of all time.
for example,
No extremes. Like, that's what people don't want to hear.
Yeah.
Not-
They
right?
want extremes. No carbs. Boom.
tell me the shit to
All
buy.
carbs. Boom.
Go. I felt for a while, I thought maybe my vitamin D is a little bit low. Got some blood work done. Okay, it looked like based on whatever standard is normal, which is another like whole bag of worms. Like we don't even know what normal should
No.
be.
Yeah, who the fuck knows?
Every
Yeah.
lab has different normals.
No one, right? And so, okay, I have used vitamin D a lot in the past. I've done it before. But my better approach, and this is the type of stuff we put in the book, is, well, actually, if that's the problem, where are we supposed to get vitamin D from? That means I need to be doing that more. So instead of outsourcing it to a supplement where I can take it in doses that would never come in nature, I actually probably am going to be fixing it, and I'm probably going to avoid some of those problems, which we don't even know what they are
Maybe I
yet.
should be in contact with the sun.
Maybe I should just go be in the sun more. And so I just started implementing, I have got to be in the sun for an hour a day. This is hard, but I try to take as many calls as I can. I do podcasts outside. I do and you find a way to engineer it around your life. And so to me, those are the better answers. So I think science has helped us.
Right. And then if you look at that, like, I like to look at stuff. How does it help? How does it hurt?
Yeah, exactly.
How does it hurt to be outside? I don't think it hurts as long as I'm paying attention and I don't get hit by a fucking car.
Right.
I'm probably okay, right?
But this is different because generally the folks that all three of us interact with are not in cancer treatment or things like that. So I think vitamin D supplementation is great if somebody walks into you, they have no sense of their body, they don't work out, they've never paid attention to what they eat, and they're complete trash. Maybe if you start them on a little bit of vitamin D, they feel immediately better, and this is your gateway to better health. Right. So
Even if it's just a placebo.
sure,
for
whatever. Even if it's not, it doesn't even matter.
Doesn't
But so for people that have a more in tune sense of their own body and training and exercise and diet and things like that, I think that ideally getting back to a place where let's let, quote unquote, nature handle as much of this as we can. Let's change our habits. Let's change our behaviors, what we're doing with our lives. But that's almost impossible for people coming from, the average person. So,
Right.
so maybe a supplementation in that case is going to be fine. So
Just because it's a little easier.
I don't think you take it out as an option. Like, why take options away from people? I don't see a benefit to that. But let's all not probably be popping. I mean, the same thing. We saw the same thing happen with fish oil.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
5 years ago.
Fish
right?
oil works. Like, everyone's like,
Swearing by it.
And now,
It's
maybe
like,
we shouldn't be taking so much fish oil.
Well, and everyone, the hot button topic of the year or the last 2 years is inflammation.
Right.
Reduces inflammation. It's like, hold on a second. I'm not aware of inflammation really being that big of a problem. Now, I recognize that it certainly could be.
Yep.
If my knee is like quote unquote inflamed and swollen,
Like mine is right now. Yep.
then there's an issue because we can have pain, range of motion issues, and all kinds of stuff. But most of us aren't suffering from that sort of inflammation.
No.
And, I don't think that our body does a lot of stuff that's like wrong. I think it's trying to
Generally, we get in the way more than it does in the way of us.
or fuck ourselves up. Right?
Exactly. So, like, for example, I love this one. This is the one I used to get fired up about all the time, inflammation. Like, what is inflammation?
I don't really even know.
It's just your body reacting to some.
So how do you know if you're inflamed?
That's a good question.
So
if you're not swollen
it doesn't mean
anywhere,
anything.
yeah.
Like, there is no, like, inflammation is a collective name. It's the old shin splints.
Yeah.
Like, what's shin splints? Well, anytime your leg hurts. Great.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then people might say like a ketogenic diet will reduce inflammation, and it's like I don't
Nonsense.
think that inflammation and holding water are the same thing. I think you
Nope.
might be talking about something
Those
different.
are entirely different things. First of all, there are hundreds of markers of inflammation. Okay?
What's the one that everybody uses for cardiac health?
There's a ton. So it depends on if you're looking at blood markers, if you're looking at muscle markers.
Blood markers.
So you have IL-6, IL-1, interleukins, cytokines, things like that. Those are actually secreted by muscle. That muscle secretion stuff I was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Like those cytokines.
Stupid muscles getting in the way.
Yeah. So, like, first of all, we can't even come to a consensus about what inflammation means. This is half the problem also with ketogenic diets is we can't even come to a consensus of what the hell that means.
Right.
So it's really hard to parse through the literature when we're not even talking about the same type of diet.
So what they'll say, like as you dive deeper into it, they'll say 0.5, on a keto meter, right? Mm-hmm. Well, where the fuck's the keto meter coming from, and how do I know it's working?
Well, you have to realize that the vast majority of ketogenic studies actually didn't implement that. And so they put them on a ketogenic diet, but never actually confirmed that they're
so
on.
I test my
in
blood
nutritional
frequently,
ketosis.
and I've tested my blood on 2 different machines, and one said that I was like 3.0, and the other one said that I was like 0.7.
Whoa.
And then I
That's
tested
why
them.
I wrote a book.
And I tested them later.
About relying on
I tested them later, and they both showed the reverse almost.
Yeah.
Not exactly, but
You folks, you would be blown away with how inaccurate, sometimes reliable, but invalid the vast majority of these technologies are.
this is why I'm not
They're
a
not
fan.
that good.
I'm not a fan of like implementing a lot of math into a lot of these equations, other than like I weigh myself.
Well, I'm such not a fan. I wrote a book about unplugging.
Yeah.
It's like
Hey, what a
if you
good
can't
book.
feel it.
Are you a fan of? I know that, and I kind of already know your answer, I guess, ahead of time here. But like, are you a fan of tracking calories and tracking, everything that you eat
So,
and so on?
I'm not a fan or unfan of any of these approaches.
Because if someone feels comfortable doing it, why take it away from them?
So I have an analogy. I think I did this one on the Rogan podcast, but I have a full episode on my podcast about it, where I think it's helpful to put people into categories with nutrition. I use several of them, but one of them is a baker, one of them is a cook.
Mm-hmm.
So if you know anything about cooking or baking, okay, baking is chemistry.
Yeah.
Like there's no fidgety-fudgeting around. You are
Right.
probably the worst baker ever.
I am.
Yeah, right? Because you have to have exact directions, exact orders. It has to be weighed and measured.
Yep.
I don't know how to follow them.
Yeah. So
I'm off the team.
you're a cook, where it's like, you know what? You can make food, but you want to, what's there, what's available, let's go. And you're probably in your training sessions doing a little bit of the same thing, right?
Right.
And you're kind of mixing and matching because you have enough experience. You're basing it on feel. And so I think when we put people in a position to succeed, that's helpful. So if I have somebody like you, and we're going to work on a nutrition program together, I would never write you a program that makes you weigh everything, measure everything out, and put it like you're going to fail. You know you're going to fail.
Day
I know
3,
you're
I'm
going
like, you're a dick.
an
How
hour
long
in,
is
you're
this?
going to call me, or we're done here.
Yeah.
Right? I'm fired. Like, here's your check. We're done. So that's just a position. So counting calories for you is probably a terrible strategy because there is massive inaccuracy to it. Now, I don't even know how many calories you're burning throughout the day, there's difference in calories
That's
too,
super
because
hard to figure out.
it's
You can't just really
basically
look it up
impossible.
on the internet, and
Nope.
then the
calories are different too. Like
it can
all
be.
calories.
I heard
do-
almost 50% off on the
Absolutely.
nutritional facts and
Absolutely.
stuff like that. I originally heard 20, and as I dug deeper, I heard people saying
Yeah, we've heard
40,
20% off on nutritional labels.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
On prepackaged fucking food.
Absolutely.
Wild.
Absolutely, right? And in addition, we don't even factor in things like thermal effect of food.
Which
Right,
protein, fiber.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, if you ingest 100 calories of protein, ingest 100 grams of fat, you're going to burn, say, I'm going to make these numbers up, but it makes the point, 20 calories just
Eating
breaking down the
protein,
protein, but you only burn 3 from breaking down the fat or the carbohydrate.
Right.
So you ingested 100, but you net held onto or partitioned 80 versus 97 or something.
Right.
That doesn't account for fiber because remember, fiber is a carbohydrate. So when you read your carbohydrate count, a portion of that is fiber. So the higher percentage of that, some of that's going to be lost, and it's not actually
And we're not
being
even
absorbed.
getting into talking about, my stomach versus your stomach versus
Yeah.
his, our genetic makeup, where
So
we're at, like
the
in our
accuracy
training.
of it is very, very low. But that doesn't mean there's no benefit or effect. So, for example, if I'm working with a baker, and like my wife, when I first started helping with her food, like I had to give her 3 almonds, not 4, Natasha, not 7 almonds, like 3, because that relieved enough anxiety with her because she had a plan. She wanted very specific
taking away
rules.
choices. Yeah.
Exactly. And then what we did is,
Decision-making,
after a
yeah.
few weeks, it's like, how are you feeling? Oh, I'm a little bit hungry still. Okay, let's bump up calories. Eat 3 more almonds. And so we adjusted calories. I don't even know what calories she's actually consuming
It's
or
really
not.
mean your wife only eats 3 almonds a day.
That's all I allow her to.
Damn, man. That's tough. That's tough.
Whatever.
Tough household.
There's no question who's in
She's
charge
like-
in that household.
It sounds like she's a bikini competitor.
Yeah, no. So it's not that I'm a fan or unfan of them. I don't practice it because I'm much more like you. And as I paid attention, I have years of paying attention to what responds.
and you would probably like for some of the people that you work with to, the more in tune they can get and the more information they can pass along to you, the better off
I can help
everyone's going to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, how much time have you really spent trying to or needing to manipulate your own body weight?
A tremendous amount.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, my entire life for the most part. So I'm not the biggest guy you've ever seen, and I played football.
We haven't showered yet, so I don't know. But go on.
I have an older brother who's just naturally 10, 15% bigger than me. So I always just got beat up my whole life.
Kicked your ass.
Right. Shout out to Casey for that. Right. But
So you're like, I better become smart or something because
well,
he's
I don't know
fucking.
if I outsourced him on that one either, but the point is, like, I was always in a quest to get bigger. I had to get bigger, even through college. I played college football, and like for 4 years, like, get bigger. I was 190, 192 when I played. I'm like 168 right now, something like that. But I graduated from college probably 178, 180, and I got down all the way to 150 for weightlifting, and I got even lower for jiu-jitsu and things like that. So I have gone from as low as like 140 and change to 190 and change. And if you look at my entire immediate family, all of them are massively obese on all sides. And even all the genetic markers that we've had tested, I have like somewhere between 16 and 60x obesity risk.
Wow.
So I'm just off the charts with obesity. So I've had to work on that like my entire life.
So you actually are paying a lot of attention, like on a daily basis.
Yeah, trying to gain for the first 10 years of my life. And in fact, the first reason I cut in weightlifting is because I realized I'm 25 or whatever I was, and I've never actually ever tried to lose weight in my life. I never tried it. And I was like, well, this is actually probably something I need to experience.
Right.
And so I went through, and I've done that a bunch now. Natasha and I will do that now once a year. We'll go through somewhere between a month and 3 months trying to get as lean as possible just for the sake of it. And just so I can learn more, I can feel more. I feel like I can give better advice when I do the science. I work with athletes. And, I do this to myself. And I try to realize that this is no longer working for me. The things that worked when I was 28 don't work anymore, or 22 or whatever. So
let's take a break. I think we should continue on for maybe a little bit longer just because I think there's still a little bit more to get to. But I need to use the restroom.
Sure. Let's take a break.
Not that much.
Yeah.
Well, I heard a smart man once say that people that succeed are the people that understand what they're shitty at.
Right.
And people that fail are the ones that either don't understand it, they ignore it, or they're in disbelief.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, that's how you fail.
Yeah, having a white belt mentality where you're not sure, the things that you're not sure of the things that you know.
Yeah.
Like, you're not sure if they're actually true.
Yeah.
And you're also aware that there's a lot more to learn.
Yeah. Well, so it's like understanding your weaknesses is huge. It's like at least having the self-awareness.
Right.
And the lack of an ego the size of your 27,000 feet here, 27,000 square feet.
Yeah.
Is pretty critical.
So we've been talking a lot about like nutrition, and we've been scratching the surface of some performance stuff. I'm talking about carbs and fat and ketosis and protein and all kinds of stuff. There's just so many different facets to the game. You mentioned fasting being kind of a glaring thing that stood out over the last maybe couple of years that maybe surprised you as not being asinine. Maybe it does have some merit. Maybe it's pretty effective. Or there are a few other things that may have kind of popped out.
I mean, I've changed my position on a lot of things. The breathing stuff, I've changed my position on big time. Supplements in general. I mean, I used to have the position that said, look, unless you had an extensive body of literature suggesting that they work, that means they don't work. And, we could have a whole 3-hour conversation about what does work even mean. And I think I was looking at that poorly because now, especially some of the things I've used with some of my athletes, I actually now determine like every supplement works basically, unless you're getting a product where they literally put a total placebo or a fake thing in it or something, and you thought you were buying vitamin C and it had nothing literally in it.
Kind of along the same lines, you could say like nutrition doesn't work because Andrew, you put me through some of this diet and I don't quote unquote feel a difference.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, well, it doesn't really make you like quote unquote feel different.
Right.
Plus you're in the middle of a training camp and so on. Like you feel like shit.
Other things changed.
Right.
Yeah. So defining like what works. So for example, I use vitamin C all the time. If you look at the literature, there's very little evidence to suggest if you take vitamin C prophylactically, so just taking it every day, that will stop you from getting sick. Okay, so I used to interpret that as saying, okay, the science says vitamin C doesn't work. That's not what it says at all. That actually just means that across this wide spectrum of things, it's not going to generally. That doesn't mean though, hey, if you take a big dose of it one time, when you're a high-level athlete, you're calorically restricted, you're overtrained, a little bit stressed, and then you're going on a plane flight and you're going to be surrounded by a bunch of kids. Like, those are all recipes for getting sick.
Right.
In that particular case, it's probably a damn good idea to take a bunch of vitamin C.
And maybe just vitamins and minerals in general.
Yeah, in general, right?
Hike them all up a little bit.
Exactly. So I have changed my position on that stuff a lot, where you can go, okay, I don't need the research to suggest that if I understand how the vitamin or mineral works, and then I understand the situation my athlete or myself are in, then I can at least try these things. There's no guarantee they're going to work, but it does give you options of things to try. And so I don't have any evidence. It would be impossible to say that that's actually working, but I do notice, like, well, now when we do that, we tend to get sick a lot less often when we take these international trips.
Maybe for an athlete that doesn't typically have caffeine, maybe utilizing some caffeine before some workouts could help.
Yeah, exactly.
And then for one that uses it all the time, maybe he should cut back.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. So like, I've really changed my thought on that, and I'll entertain, because I'm generally I won't say anti-supplement guy, but I'm much more of a let's get it from food.
Right.
Right. But that doesn't mean those things don't have their place. For most of us, most of the time, we don't necessarily need it, but in some circumstances, situations, we can't hedge our bets.
Right.
And just because I don't know if it's working or not, what's the risk? Okay, it's almost nothing. So taking a little bit of vitamin C for 3 or 4 days, there's very little risk on that. What's the potential benefit? Well, there's some. Maybe you don't get sick and you're going to compete in world championships. Well, then that's a huge benefit. So my risk to benefit ratio has shifted now in the favor where I wouldn't have done that 5 years ago or 10 years ago.
Well, wasn't there a recent study about placebos saying that placebos work for some people for some things, even if they know it's a placebo and they don't expect it to work?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
And there's other things you can't account for. You know, like we've done this. I work with a lot of athletes that are oftentimes trying to cut weight.
Yeah.
So trying to lose a bunch of fat. And you have a combination here of psychological stress. You've got emotional stress. And so sometimes, like, I don't know what this vitamin or mineral is going to do necessarily, but if you think it's going to work for you, and that's enough to reduce your stress enough to where hormones start actually coming back to reasonable, that alone will trim fat off of you.
I'm going to get sick because you told me not to take vitamin D anymore.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Then what's going to
I
happen?
feel like shit. Exactly.
I'm going to have a cold and I'm going to blame you, right?
Yeah, exactly. Fair enough. We'll be even. Yeah.
That's amazing. And people, so much of it is expectation, I guess.
Yep.
As opposed to exactly what the content of their diet or their training or anything else happens to be. It's how do I feel?
We've had Stan Efferding, on the podcast. I mentioned him many times before. He trained at the gym, and he said, things that you do for yourself are going to usually be more effective than things that you have done to yourself. So something like a massage, a massage can be very beneficial, and that's great that you are taking the time to have somebody work on your body and work on your muscles, but you should be working on that as well. You should be finding ways of getting pain relief for yourself. Maybe a little bit of light work on a stationary bike or something might be really effective to help with recovery. It could beat the hell out of getting a massage, perhaps, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you look at the vast majority of physical therapists that are really working with people that are moving like we're moving, I mean, they're all going to say that recovery is an active process.
Right.
Right. Like, how many times have you heard Kelly say this stuff? Like, this is like something you do. Like, you just can't lay there.
Right.
There may be a slight analgesic effect, like, oh, it felt good. Right. But we're really talking about, but the other step back, which I got from Kelly and Brian McKenzie, is like, okay, well, first of all, we shouldn't have got ourselves in that position to begin with.
Right.
Right. Or not all the time, but if you're having pain, this is a body way saying something's not working right here. So let's stop back and let's stop instead of treating the symptom, which is
you're thinking
I'm in pain.
ice heat, and it's like,
no,
well,
let's
why
stop
don't
you from getting pain in the first
stop
place.
training like an idiot.
Yeah, exactly. So let's come back. But if we outsource all the time to somebody else, or we outsource to a supplement all the time, are we really then fixing our diet? Right, like I talked about earlier, I needed to actually just get in the sun more, and we only know a few of those reasons in the lab. But if you start to look at them from all the perspectives of psychology, and like I just showed yesterday, I posted like one of the most maybe the most likes I've ever gotten on an Instagram post yesterday, and it was just a stupid picture of a brain at rest.
Oh,
and
yeah,
I saw that.
Yeah.
After walking for 20 minutes, and it's all like all lit up, right?
Wow.
So now I took back and I go, okay, so I don't just go lay out in the sun, like lay on my back. This is not my style. I'm always almost walking the dogs, something like that. So my dogs get more exercise. That translates into them having less terror in my house. That's less stress on my wife. That's easier on me. My brain, like, and you can just count all the, whatever perspective you want to take a look at this. So now by adding that hour of walking in the sun every day, I fixed so many other things that taking that vitamin D pill would not have fixed.
Right. And for you may need more sun, but somebody that is already getting a lot of sun, maybe they need less of it.
Yeah.
It's possible, right?
Well, okay, there's that too. I heard, oh man, I was just listening to this guy. He was at PaleoFX last year. Rusco, I think is his name. He does a lot of gut stuff, bacteria stuff, and he made a really good analogy. So I apologize if I don't remember your name exactly. Somebody Google it. I'm trying to give you credit. I just don't remember your name. And he talked about like taking probiotics as a good example. And it's the same hermetic truth here, where it's like, okay, if you take somebody, and let's picture a rainforest, and if that's analogy for your gut microbiome, and you put a bunch of rain in the rainforest, that's going to make the rainforest explode into happiness, right? You're going to come and you're going to look and you'll be like, wow, that's a really healthy rainforest.
Right.
But if you take that same amount of water and you put it into my house in Southern California, you're going to get mudslides and destruction everywhere.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, well, then do we take probiotics or not? In this analogy, again, probiotics are the rain, right? Well, it depends on the environment. So some of us, maybe taking a bunch of probiotics is very helpful, but some of us, maybe that's actually going to trash your stomach even more because you're not ready for it. You don't have the same biology for it. You don't have the same ethnicity for it. Whatever else is going on, and we don't even have anything remotely close to scratching the surface of figuring out who, when, what exactly. And so we just have to live by this, okay, trial by error. Let's start here.
What do you think of some man-made things that could potentially be beneficial to us? I mean, supplements, I guess, would fall in that category, like a creatine or something. Like, I know it exists, but somebody had to kind of discover that it works well for muscle. A probiotic
Works well for brain too.
A probiotic or something like that, I guess, would fall into that category a little bit. It's like a fermented food. I don't know
but
how else you
so
would
that's
get
what you're seeing the backlash already. Just like we saw the backlash a few years ago on fish oil, we're seeing it already on probiotics, which is everyone's saying, actually, now let's just start eating more fermented food.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a better approach. And
Right.
because the problem with something like probiotics or prebiotics is you're actually getting only those bacteria that are in that product. And so
Right.
you're actually creating a pretty narrow selection bias.
Any idea where this originated from? Just perhaps food getting old?
Yeah, well, it's that and it's preservation. So if there's I think it was Planet Earth, one of those really awesome Nat Geo productions, and they found this tribe of people in the island somewhere, and what they did is they would stand by the edge of the cliff, and when birds would come up and use the air to get up on the thing, they would stand by the edge of it and they would fling like a trap up, like a net, and catch them, right? So they catch all these birds, but they would catch way more than they could eat at once. So they would wrap them, they kill them, right? Wrap them in their little thing and bury them in the ground for like 3 or 4 or 5 months.
That doesn't sound hygienic.
Yeah, well, you get them out and there's this slimy, like half fermented thing. They put them in a big sack of the cow gut or something
It's
like
just
that.
so
Wrapped
interesting. How the fuck do you figure any?
But it's super
anyway,
fermented,
yeah.
right?
Right.
Well, that's also what keeps them healthy. And so for them, it was a way to preserve food over time. And if you're starving 20,000 years ago, like, you're not really giving a shit if it tastes great.
No.
You don't care. They eat the whole thing. It's really disgusting. But so, I mean, those evolutionary biological perspectives are what probably led us to figuring a lot of these things out.
And the birds are fairly lean and probably maybe have a fattier.
Well, you got to imagine too, like, they're not cooking, they're eating the whole thing.
Yeah.
So they're getting everything.
Everything.
They're getting the fat, carb, like, they're getting everything from that animal. They're not cooking it and getting the skimmed chicken breast and, like, I mean, they're getting the feathers. They're eating all of it because it's all fermented and basically broken down.
Yeah.
Nature's got a lot of solutions for us if we just take the time to listen to it, and we take the time to let it work its course, and we're not screwing ourselves over more than we are helping ourselves, like we talked about earlier.
You work with somebody that is not having any like gut problems or anything that they notice. You probably have them just kind of continue on with whatever protocol you would normally implement, and maybe you wouldn't add a lot of fiber or probiotics or any of the things like that, or maybe add a little bit because you find it to be somewhat beneficial.
So fiber is a great example. Like, is fiber good for us?
I have no idea.
Well,
I've never paid attention to fiber, and I've never had a problem.
if you've never shit,
But I don't think I
if you haven't pooped in 8 days,
Some fiber's
for
probably a
you.
good idea.
Well, generally fiber. Well, why do we say fiber is good for us? Like, we can actually walk through this. This will be fun. You're going to sound stupid, but bear with me. Right?
Yeah.
I'm sure it's not the first time either one of you have sounded stupid on your own podcast.
Oh, no,
No.
all the time. I
Okay.
love it.
So
YouTube tells us. So
right.
They do, yeah.
Trust me. All right. So why just in general do people even tell people to eat fiber?
I think to keep them regular, right?
regulation, yeah.
Okay, I would agree, right? So we can't digest some portion of fiber, so it actually
Helps
moves
pull
through our
food
system.
out of you, yeah.
Right, cool. So why would that be a good thing?
Because maybe some particles of food or something get left behind.
Okay, fine.
Or like not pooping for a long time is a bad thing.
It doesn't feel good.
You
Back in
feel
your-
terrible, yeah.
back in
Just
your
shit
shit up.
once a month and,
Yeah.
have a brick
Yeah.
come out. Got it. Makes sense. I'm with you guys on that one. No problem. That would be my inclination to say the same thing. In addition, you would say if there's anything, like the reason you get gas is because things sit in there and they ferment for a long time. This is why beans and things give you gas, because they're actually hard to digest. They sit in the digestive tract for a long time, and so they're breaking down longer. They're further down the digestive process. So fiber helps you get things out quickly. Okay, so that's great. So then we should just eat fiber. We should take a fiber supplement. We should eat the most fibers. Wait a minute. The other benefit of eating fiber is what types of foods are full of fiber?
Fruits and vegetables.
Fruits, vegetables.
Right, right.
Okay, so this is a pretty good prescription. It does all
Yeah.
these things, but more importantly, it's a way to help you easily understand,
Right.
eat fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all true, and I'm with you. But the flip side of that equation is, by the same damn token, if this thing makes nutrients move through my system faster, what's the potential consequence of nutrients going very fast through my system?
You're not absorbing them.
I'm not going to absorb them.
Yeah.
So the more that
Right.
you have fiber, the less nutrients you probably absorb, because the same place that the fiber is kicking through is where you're absorbing a lot of your nutrients. And
I've always
minerals.
felt like I think they say that you're supposed to get like 40 grams of fiber a day.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I've always felt that sounds high. Now I imagine it's dependent on the person, but I'm like, man, 40 grams of fiber sounds like quite a bit.
Well, it depends on if you're eating a lot of vegetable all day, you're probably getting there.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that's where they're coming from. If you're eating, crappy food and then you're just taking a scoop of, powdered greens,
yeah.
like, oh, now you missed the fiber.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. Going through the longer process and not cutting corners is probably almost always beneficial.
So
right?
somebody, for example, who's on a low-calorie diet, for whatever reason, may benefit from having a little bit less fiber so that the nutrients stay in there a little bit longer so they can get away with having less calories,
Right.
but getting more extraction out of it.
Oh, makes sense.
Somebody who's in a potential place of fasting, what I mean by that is like if you're in a third world country and you may not have access to real food, having a lot of high fibrous foods is actually deleterious.
Because it's just clearing out too fast.
I'd
and
rather
you-
be farty and gassy all day and be fed.
Right.
Yeah. If you don't know
And not
when your
starve to
next
death.
meal is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So bodybuilders will actually use that technique to some extent. Well, they'll eat large amounts of like Brussels sprouts or something. I mean, they're not like intentionally trying to like fart all day,
Yeah, it
but
happens though.
but they
But they
are
do.
trying to take up space.
Yeah.
And they're trying to get some sort of fulfillment or feel satisfied
Satiety,
with
yeah.
their foods they're eating because they're plummeting their caliries down next to nothing as the contest comes up.
Makes sense. For me personally, I have IBS, and if I take psyllium on a daily basis, it's not bad.
Yeah.
I'm mostly okay.
Seems to help you manage it better.
If I forget it, if I back off of it for a period of time, I'm screwed again. Especially in certain foods, set it off. I know what they are for the most part. Every once in a while, they sneak up on you.
Yeah.
Or they're delicious. There's that other problem. You
just
know.
take the shitting all day for.
Yeah. You know it's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
Are there a few practices that you recognize as just generally being bad, like not good? Like there are a couple of things that people are messing around with. Like, when I first started to hear about fasting, I was like, oh man, like,
Yep.
everyone does eat too much, but this seems extreme. And now it seems like it can be really effective. But are there some things that people are maybe doing where you're like, I'd maybe pump the brakes on that a little bit too much? Or a little
Well,
bit?
I would say that any supplementation is going to fall in that category for me. Like, unless you have a very clear reason, we should not be staying in that lane for a lot of reasons. We don't understand that any manipulation of hormones is the one I would say use extreme caution on. Even the qualified folks, endocrinologists, they're just guessing massively.
Right.
We talked about that stuff earlier. So that's a massive practice where I'd say like really be careful on that one.
So you're talking about routine stuff like thyroid and stuff like that too, or
Well, I mean, again, if you have a disorder,
yeah,
you're hypothyroid, and it's really screwing with your life, and I don't mean just like I can't PR. like I mean, like you have really medical conditions.
Either your
Absolutely.
metabolism is slowed down, or
Totally.
you can't sleep and you're manic. And
If you're like, I'm having trouble sleeping, I can't lose this weight, I'm holding on to this extra 10 pounds, I would say that turning to hormones should be like the last thing that you get to. Let's totally change your diet to something like that. Let's totally change your sleeping habits. Let's experiment with some of these other things that I think we can get you there a lot faster. Sorry, not as fast, but it's going to be a much more long-term
sustainable
solution.
because pretty much everyone that I've ever known that's taken a thyroid prescription thyroid medication, a synthetic thyroid medication, it's totally a moving target.
Oh yeah.
Like they're
there's a
having to
reason.
readjust every 3 months or less.
Yeah, it's because you're not supposed to be taking those things.
Yeah.
You know, again, if you had like a tumor on your thyroid, had a part of it removed or something like that, or you're born. But if you just have all of a sudden, like we get this one a lot, like, oh, I'm in adrenal fatigue. Oh, okay. Like, well, did you go to war or something, have some traumatic effect? No. I just train really hard. Right. So what's our solution now, Bob?
Right.
I'm going to go take, no. Like, no, let's bring it back. Like,
Right.
let's do those. So those are the general practices where I say, like, we're far too concerned about taking the technology, the easy fix, and not just saying, this has been told something. Your body, man, like it'll really figure out a way to solve things, and it's generally telling you what it wants. And when we outsource things to concentrations that are far higher, I mean, okay, sugar is a super easy example. All right, sugar's not bad for you at all. Here's the real problem with that stuff. The vast majority of the ways we consume sugar come in super concentrated dosage.
Yeah.
So, for example, a beet, right, which is where one of the two places we get most of our sugar from.
Beets and cane.
Right? So, do you know glycemic index, right?
Correct,
So the glycemic index is, is supposed to tell you how high a food will raise your blood sugar.
Right.
Right? Okay, that's helpful. So then generally people think, okay, therefore I'm not going to eat foods that are high in glycemic index.
Carrot or some shit, right?
Sure. Okay. Carrot's a fantastic example. We'll do carrot. We'll come back and finish beet too. Awesome. If you look at a carrot, the glycemic index is pretty high.
Right.
Okay. I guarantee you go eat a carrot, your blood sugar won't move an inch.
Right.
Why? Because there's a second thing called glycemic load, which actually takes into account, well, how much of this are you actually consuming?
Right.
And turns out vegetables and fruits, almost all the ones that have a very high glycemic index have like even non-registerable glycemic load. Carrots are a great example of that. Like carrots will not spike your blood glucose. You would have to eat like 400 carrots.
Yeah.
Like the consumable dosage is so extremely low. But having said that, how can we get screwed up with carrots? Let's take 40 carrots, let's juice them all down to a concentration, dehydrate and extract that same amount of sugar that's in them, and then we'll put that in one little package and put that in my coffee.
Right.
Now we've got a problem. And so it's not the fact that it's not sugar, it's a problem. You consumed it at a concentration so much higher than you would have ever been able to physically get it in nature. And so, like, I get this one, man. The carrots one is a great one. That one fires me up more than about anything else.
Can you use stuff like that though to your advantage occasionally? So, like, you get done with a workout, we're kind of taught like, hey, this is a window, post-workout window of being able to have carbohydrates.
Yeah.
Would a man-made thing, such as a juice or something like that, or specific carbohydrate, make more sense than rice?
So let's
just from what you've seen.
Let's talk, because I can give you some pretty specific answers on the post-exercise anabolic window. So this is the whole...
What is this fucking window about? I've been trying to figure it out for years.
Window of gains.
Try to jump out that thing.
CTP, shout out for you. So it's this whole idea that, you've got this magical window, say 30 minutes or so after workout, where you've got to get nutrients in.
Immediately. It's got to be immediate.
Right. So we actually have some really cool data just coming out in the last week or so out of our lab that shows that window is actually pretty specific to the fiber type. So the post-exercise anabolic window is different between fast twitch and slow twitch fibers. So if you have more fast twitch fibers and you have more slow twitch, your windows might be totally different. You might have 3 hours and you might have 20 minutes.
This is why I like fasting. It's less complicated.
Yeah, right?
I'm just not eating.
But we can even talk about the truth of the quote-unquote truth of the post-exercise anabolic window, because depending on where you look, some people say it's complete garbage and some people say it's, what are you talking about? There's dozens of studies. And I think we can unpack it pretty well, and it's not that complicated. So this is for you. We'll bring it down to idiot level.
Thank you.
Okay. So put it this way. Do you guys typically train in the morning or afternoon or when you train?
Mornings, 2 days a week.
We do a little bit of both.
Here, and me personally, I always train in the afternoon now most of the time, but here it's
A lot of
usually
times I'll just give
mornings.
you a typical Saturday. I normally will train in a fasted state. Maybe the only thing I might have is coffee, and then I work out at around 9 o'clock, and then first meal might be like around 11 or around 12 or 1 o'clock, something like that.
Okay, so that's actually good. Sometimes you do.
Yeah, we do a little bit of both.
Cool.
Yeah.
A little bit. Both,
So if you have now been fasted for 16 hours, we'll say, it doesn't matter, numbers, who cares? And you finish that exercise session, it is probably pretty important that you get in nutrients fairly quickly after that workout, because now it has been 16 hours or so without those amino acids in the muscle we talked about have gotten low. The sugar we talked about have gotten low. It's probably important.
Probably almost all nutrients.
All yes.
Yeah, magnesium, zinc,
Sure.
potassium. I mean,
All these cofactors and coenzymes.
fat, protein,
Exactly.
carbs.
But that's only partially true because it depends on the goal of that workout.
Right.
So if you did a workout and you came in, you got really good and warmed up, you did some power stuff, some speed stuff, boom, you knocked it out. Well, it's probably not super important you maximize your nutrients like post that, because that's not that difficult of a workout.
Right.
If you came in, did a workout and you got a lot of volume in, whether that was heavy or whether that was conditioning or whether that was aerobic, it doesn't really matter, especially if you're trying to gain muscle. Well, now that's a slightly different workout. You would need to actually probably more emphasize it. But even in addition to that, what's tomorrow's workout? Oh, you're off Sunday? Oh, and then you're actually going to be on a plane for 12 hours on Monday, and then you're not going to actually work out again until next Wednesday? Well, now is it super important that I maximize getting that food in right after my Saturday morning workout? Well, no, because you've got 4 days
to catch back
up. You're going to be
Right.
fine.
Yeah, makes sense.
But you're going to work out again that day, or you got a real hard session tomorrow morning, then probably get your nutrients in really, really, really quickly. That's going to help you recover.
But then also following through with some of the advice you gave earlier, which was if you feel a lot of anxiety towards this, then do what you need. Do what you think
For
you
sure.
need.
Yes,
You know,
sure.
Andy, you're wrong. I need, dude. I know. I need chicken and rice right after my workout. Like,
Yeah, fine.
Go ahead and have it, man.
Yeah, get it in there.
Right.
Okay, let's do the other scenario though. Let's say you worked out in the afternoon, and you had breakfast already, and you had a snack, and you brought your protein shake. Well, then you already have those nutrients right there in the muscle. They've been there for the last 6 hours. It doesn't matter if you get your stuff in post-exercise or not. In that particular case, the total amount that you consume throughout the day is probably more important than the timing.
Yeah, we try to tell people all the time that powerlifting is not all that glycogen depleting. Like, you don't have to hit that Gatorade, folks, or
Right.
you're not running a marathon, you're not sprinting anywhere. It's not
You can actually deplete quite a bit of glycogen lifting, like really high levels, 70, 80%, massive, but it takes more volume.
Yeah.
Like it's either, the classic style, which I'm just going to assume you guys do more sets than reps. So generally.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's not super taxing on glycogen.
Yeah.
But if you do like 4 sets of 10, 4 sets of 10, 412, something like that, you
Right.
can actually crush most of the glycogen pretty quick like that.
Don't
so it'll
some
get
of the
low.
numbers get to be really weird amongst people that do low carbohydrate? Like someone who's low carb and someone who's more moderate or high, isn't like your blood glucose kind of almost end up to be kind of similar?
Oh, well, yeah, it should. Because blood glucose is one of the few things like pH, like blood pressure, where your body has a pretty tight window.
It'll
And it will move everything else
yeah.
to make sure it's pretty lined up.
Yeah, it's fucking weird.
Yeah. It wants you there for a barrage of reasons.
Right.
And it will find a way, and it will compromise performance. It will compromise recovery to make sure that blood sugar
Just always drives toward some kind of homeostasis.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
There's a few markers, pH, blood pressure, blood glucose, and electrolyte concentration that are pretty much going to be like, screw everything else. If we have to, we're going to come back to that.
Do you think there's an issue with something like a ketogenic style diet getting to be real popular, where maybe people are just, maybe they're not as informed as they should be? Is it possible that they're doing some things that might be a little bit dangerous for them in particular?
Yeah. So this is have you guys ever wrote and sold training programs here at Super Training, anything like that?
I've done a lot of like personal training
Okay.
and stuff, and I've helped people with training
I'm
programs.
sure you guys
yeah,
have written training, but you guys have never done like big launches and
we never really
No.
sold shit like that.
Okay, so either way, there's a difference between the quality of the plan and how people implement it. So just because people make mistakes implementing, that doesn't necessarily reflect that the plan is bad. or you could say that, like that could be your position. If it's not implementable, it's bad. Okay, whatever. But let's make sure at least we're having the same conversation. Okay, so the vast majority of problems that people run into with keto is they're not applying it correctly. So that is sort of a separate issue entirely. So we'll just focus though on just the issues of, let's say you follow it perfectly.
I'm just kind of talking about somebody just stumbles across it. Maybe they stumble across my Instagram, and now they're all in, they're all excited, and maybe there's some, maybe there's some negatives.
Well, that's sort of why I brought it up, is because the vast majority of people that fall into things like that do have a lot of problems. They have a lot of problems with hydration. They have a lot of problems with recovery. They have a lot of problems with becoming carbohydrate crappy. Like they can't process carbohydrates, their performances go down. Now, there are solutions within the diet, but you have to really start diving deep.
And well, I find too, when I try to deliver a message of specific details, people kind of forget. They don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
All they heard was like, hey, this has helped me lose weight. And then they're like, okay, what do I do? And then when I'm talking about, making sure that you have salt and make sure you have potassium, make sure you're feeling okay, like really be in tune with your body. Yeah, they're kind of like, you're not listening to that, or they might not also listen to that. Hey, it took me about 3 months to even get headed in the right direction.
Yep.
Which who the fuck wants to hear that? And then I started to lose weight, and then I started to move rapidly.
Well, the little bit of evidence on athletes in particular suggests that it might take up to a year to really get adapted. And so again, are you willing to compromise a year? If you are, maybe. If you're not, then this is there. So yes, like I think that people run into major problems with that.
Versus having done something that had already worked.
Right.
Versus doing something you have no idea what the outcome's going to be.
And I'm not convinced yet of any data that is even remotely convincing that suggests it's that much better than just a well-controlled diet.
Right.
With the exception of, there are a few types of cancer that seem to be, but there's also types of cancers that actually get worse, that feed off of ketone bodies.
Right.
So it's not like a cancer pass.
Right.
But it is like, if you have this cancer, you've been diagnosed with this cancer, or you've been diagnosed with this disorder, neurological, maybe it is a great solution. And so we should encourage that. It does seem
like low carbs could be really effective for diabetes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even so what
maybe
you just
not
mentioned
keto,
there,
but just
that's another important conversation. Is like, okay, well, let's talk keto, but let's talk low carb diet. Like, I think those are good options. Like, let's have these options on the table. I don't understand why we have to cut
just because you're not producing tons of ketones,
and just because you don't like it,
right? Like, and I've done.
Who cares?
I've done a lot of in this journey of doing a lot of keto style diets. I've done them many different ways. I've done them where on a training day I'll have 200 grams of carbs. Non-training day I might have 50. Sure. Now this is in addition to trace carbohydrates. So when you start to really add it up, it could be 50 grams more.
Those little fuckers are everywhere.
They are, and I think that that has been effective for me as well. So it's not. I don't know, when we get into ketosis and we talk about it more and more, and people learn more and more about it, there really hasn't been, just because you're quote unquote deeper into ketosis or you're producing more ketones, doesn't show that you're necessarily losing more weight or burning fat in any specific particular way. I try to share with people all the time, the diet's not magic. There's not a magical element to it that makes it superior. Yeah. Again, for me, it's one of the only diets that I seem to be able to follow well for a period of time where I can have my calories lower. Yep. I can deal with the hunger a little bit easier.
For sure.
I can deal with seeing the stuff in my cabinet that my kids eat, and I'm not triggered by any of them. However, when there's some carbs in there and I'm training for strength, I'm like, fuck it, I'll have some goldfish. Next thing I know, I'm eating their Fruity Pebbles. And kids are like, Dad, there's no more Fruity Pebbles left.
If you put me down and said, like, absolutely have to make a recommendation on it. Like, I generally don't feel like a ketogenic diet is that much better than a well-controlled diet. But having said that, I mean, I have a friend right now who's been on keto for probably 3 years. But if you ask him, like, explain your ketogenic diet, he's like, well, I started eating more avocado. I started eating more nuts. All I was eating was, like, fake meat, basically. Now I'm eating real meat. The vast majority of his nutrition change was that, right? And I'm like, oh, he's still eating, like, he's not even close to ketogenic at all. Like, not even close.
He just doesn't necessarily go out of his way to eat, like, a hamburger bun.
But he doesn't know. Like, he doesn't pay attention to the field at all. So he thinks he's on keto. And all he does, he stopped eating crap, chips, crackers, like, all that other stuff. And he started eating more real food.
Right.
So I'm like, he thinks he's on keto. So I haven't said a word to him. Like, I'm like, oh, he's great. And like, what do you think keto? Like, it's great, man. It's a fantastic diet. For him,
right,
it worked.
What's the effect have been over 3 years?
So,
I mean, was it weight loss he was trying to do, or just being
he's
general
super skinny,
health?
Actually, he does mostly jiu-jitsu recreationally, but he's felt performance, energy was more stable throughout the day. Cognitive, he runs a pretty high-level business, so he's like cognitive function was there. Like, okay, great. So I'm not going to go in there and walk around and tell him his diet is stupid.
Right.
Like, why would I? He's had a tremendous success for a couple of years now. He's very, very happy
knocking
with
down
it.
his fucking Lego blocks. He built them up. He's all proud of them, and you came in.
Yeah, and it didn't matter. Like, if he was doing something that I thought was harmful for him, I would knock that down for him.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's like, this is a net win.
But nothing succeeds like success.
Yeah, exactly.
So
So
why fuck with that?
let him get a little bit of test. He's not making unhealthy choices.
Yeah.
Like, let him win.
Right.
Why do we have to do that? I think that, I mean, if you pinned me down and said, pick those 3 macronutrients, which one would this society benefit the most out of reducing? Like, that's an obvious answer.
Yeah.
Right.
It's carbohydrate. Like, okay, so does that mean carbs are bad? No. Am I anti-carb? Clearly not. Like, look at any of my stuff.
Right.
Clearly. But if there's one thing, people don't walk around snacking on fat usually.
Right.
You don't snack on protein.
Right.
Like, what do you snack on? So if I go to my mom and just say, hey, yeah, I want you to do this new keto diet or paleo diet or whatever you want to call it, and to her that transfers to, oh shit, I don't get to snack on these things anymore, and that's the only change she made, we probably won.
Right.
And if you look at it clearly, you mentioned this earlier, but carbohydrates are extremely cheap.
Yeah.
They're virtually non-perishable. They're very
You're not going to get
flexible.
a $95 bowl of mac and cheese.
No way.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah. Oh my God, would that
But
be
it's
good?
it's usually a fillet, right? And it's
Right.
usually a side of vegetables and maybe a starch or something.
And
small.
there's no charcuterie lunchable.
Oh, yeah. That's exactly right. So it's not that carbs are bad, but they seem to be the one people have the most problems with right now.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think so. Then I think that message of let's start exploring some low carbohydrate diets. While the performance scientists can like react to that and all they want, let's look at the 350 million people that are struggling with obesity around the world, or whatever that number is. I don't know what the number is. It's huge, though, right? And if the one thing that we could get to them was, hey, maybe we should just stop eating so much of those things that you're having a problem with. Like, those were the problem ones
Right.
for you.
Yeah.
It probably, I mean, in a nutshell, if you told someone, hey, 5 days a week, eat less than 100 grams of carbs and don't overeat, they'd probably be on their way to like losing some, like if their goal was to lose some weight.
Now, if you look at the data, like total calories when equated for protein, it doesn't matter if those come from carbs or fat, like
Right,
weight
right.
loss. Like
Right.
But like, again, if that was what kicked them off to get in the right direction.
Yeah. And the reduction of a macronutrient such as fat or carbohydrates can help somebody to be more in line with the particular calories that they may need.
Exactly, because those are the ones that are going to creep in that they're not really paying attention to, that they're hard to quantify.
In the same way that people are not exercising at all, anything they do is better than not doing anything at all.
Yeah, I mean, I've recommended like Zumba. I've recommended Pilates.
Oh, yeah.
For tons of people. Why? Because I want you to build a habit of you go to the gym 3 days a week.
Yeah.
Right.
Later, we'll worry about what the quality of that thing is. But let's build a habit first. My friend Marie Spano, who's the nutritionist for the Atlanta Hawks basketball team, and she's really, really sharp. And I heard her give a talk a couple of years ago. And she said, look, constantly, she hates keto. She's far more like stranger to pun. But she always said, like, look, when my people show up and they're an NBA player and they're on a ketogenic diet, she's like, I can't take them from ketogenic diet to hard stop, go what I want them on.
Right.
So she's like, what I try to do is like slowly start working them towards, and it might take her 3 months, 6 months, a year to get them to the place that she wants them to be in.
Right.
But she has like, we have to have success, and we have to be a little bit more humane with the people we're interacting with, because let's remember, like, we're dealing with people.
Right.
Like, we're dealing with people.
Right.
Like, not science. And so we have to understand, like, you have limitations and wants and concerns and worries and other things, and we have got to be able to put you in a place where you have a reasonable chance to succeed, because if you don't, like you, so it sounds like having a lot of carbohydrates in your diet are just not a place where you can succeed.
Right.
So why force that?
Right.
Okay, maybe we can eventually.
And that's actually not even 100% true. I can do it. It just has to be for a period of time.
Yeah. And
Like if I can associate a period of time to it, then I'm like, okay, I can go through this,
Right.
and I can eat chicken and rice, a couple times a day and deal with it.
So what's the problem with you then going on your Instagram and going, hey, this is what I've been doing. I've been having a lot of success with it. I feel a lot, and this is what is really helping me.
Right.
Especially when you have a following the size of yours, and like, well, that could help a lot of people.
Right.
Like, I struggle with that too, and I was wondering, and I look up, like, I don't see why these are harm as long as you're
no.
not misrepresenting the science or misrepresenting that everyone should doing it. And as far as I know, you're not. So like,
no, yeah, and I run into a lot of people that will say, hey, like I've been trying it and I'm really stuck in it. And if you legitimately have tried it and you are legitimately stuck, I mean, there's some people aren't always giving it a full effort, you know, and not really diving all in or whatever. But if you tried it for a month and you're really not moving anywhere, well, then you need to try to change something.
Yeah.
But you maybe aren't actually cutting enough calories. It doesn't.
Right,
You can,
right.
You
And
shift.
I usually I don't advise people to do. I don't advise people to jump all in right away. Like, why not just your diet's a mess. Let's have you like just cut back on some junk. Let's start with that.
Yeah.
Then maybe the next step is let's have you do a day that's like low carb.
Yeah.
Just, I don't know. See how you feel. Try it out.
Yeah.
And maybe, but I usually tell people it will take them a month just to kind of figure out what to eat, when to eat.
Yeah.
Then let's worry about reducing calories. I know people are like, fuck, man, I got to mess with this for 30 days, but you're trying to adapt. Yeah, you're trying to adapt to a new lifestyle.
Yeah.
And you're trying to adapt to now. I feel controlled enough to where I can have any sort of diet. And
what
be
would you
totally
say
fine.
to your kid if you moved to a new city and after a week being in the new school, they cried and want to go, I want to move back. Just give it a few weeks. Like this. So why can't you apply that same logic to your damn self? Like, be an
That's a
adult.
good question.
I heard someone say this the other day. They said, how long would you allow a child to learn how to walk for? Some kids, they walk at different ages.
Right,
You're going to give them every opportunity they can until they're ready to fucking walk.
Yeah.
But you're not going to give yourself the same opportunity.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to load up on what they think is going to be the best diet plan because they're convinced that some expert or opinion leader or whatever has said it was the best. They're going to take every single fucking supplement. They're going to work out too much.
Yeah.
And they're going to burn out in a month or 2 months or whatever, and they're not going to see the kinds of benefit that they intended, and it's all going to be for naught. Just a slower approach. Everybody seems like they're allergic to it, but
I really,
how long do you want to keep living? Like,
right.
Like how long you have to keep doing this? How long do you want to be alive?
I really like John Berardi's from Precision Nutrition. I like his approach. When you're changing a diet, it's a 3-step system. I think it's just beautiful. It's like step 1, what I alluded to earlier, similar to mine, which is add things. Like the first thing you do is add good.
It's like wait, I thought we were subtracting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
And just look at that position. Like you literally you see the people go like, you see their spirit go like, what? Oh. Wait, I'm starting a diet and all you gotta do is give me a bunch of shit to eat?
Yeah.
Huh?
Hey, I want you to eat more fruit. Well, I get to eat more fruit.
We're gonna add things in. We're gonna add things in and fix your deficiencies. Wow, you haven't had a vegetable in 8 months. Okay, we're gonna start there. We're gonna add we're gonna add these things in. What's gonna happen? You're gonna start feeling better. You're not gonna get sick as often. Your recoveries. You're gonna start sleeping better. You're gonna be more regular.
That's amazing. And someone's like, I hate vegetables. Like, throw butter on it.
Sure, cook it, boil
You're
it.
not worried. Who
Who cares? Fry it. Like whatever. Like there's a million ways we could get it in there. Blend it. Come up with a different vegetable. There's a lot of them out there. I have access. All right. So add things first. Then after there, you can start playing around with timing. You can start playing around with reducing calories. But the 3-step system you can look up on your own. But the first one is, I'm like, yes, dude. Like that's the first thing we do. Make them feel good.
Right.
First. Then we can start worrying about playing with supplements, which would be dead last. That's step 3, right? Is dick around with whatever supplements and stuff you want. But that's not the big fish to fry.
Yeah.
Let's get those easy wins, those big, huge benefits for very little thing. And now we've established a habit. We've established pleasure. We're excited. We're happy about this diet. We're looking forward to this diet as opposed to being like, you're going to walk in and I'm going to give you a list of shit you don't get to eat anymore. And that's also probably your favorite shit to eat.
Right.
Like, that sounds fun. I'm in.
Well, they can't.
No.
And they're not even going to hear anything else you have to say. They're like, you took away my
mortified.
fucking pasta, you motherfucker.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so if we start those things with low carbs, like, for example, I don't do well on like a super low carbohydrate diet. My recovery just falls off the tank.
Doesn't feel good.
Doesn't feel good. I also do very, very well on eating a bunch of meals throughout the day. So I do not do well on 16-8 intermittent fasting stuff. I do them a lot for that exact reason.
Right.
Like that's why I do it. In fact, when we probably next week, we're going to be moving towards probably like a 1 meal a day for a while. Just because I haven't done anything like that in a very long time.
Right.
It's time. I have to move on. It's going to be very uncomfortable.
Change it up.
I generally don't, even after I get adapted, I don't like it as much. We've done this stuff. I don't feel as well. I function best, recover, cognitive, everything when I eat like 7 meals a day. My wife is way more like, she likes 3. Like, she feels way better on 3. Okay, that's fine. We've done enough experimentation to realize that. But now we are still going to pick times where we choose suffering.
Right.
I'm going to choose to not be optimizing. Why? So that I can adapt. And you know what's going to happen when I'm going through that period of transition where I'm only eating once a day? I'm still going to fucking work. And I'm going to produce. And I'm going to be just as present with my wife. And I'm not going to be shitty. And my training's not going to fall off. And it's going to be hard. But what's the big deal?
Right.
Why are we afraid to work hard?
How have some of these things transitioned and helped you just in everyday life? You know, like we're talking specifically about like a diet, and people are thinking diet, like I'm going to get some abs or whatever. But if you're thinking about this in terms of how it's helped you in your business, if you're able to suffer and teach yourself suffering, and you're able to teach yourself, you know, success breeds success, you just keep teaching it to yourself over and over again. That's what you're feeding your body all the time through training and through nutrition. How has that helped you in other avenues of your life, relationship wise, business wise?
Yeah, I mean, I actually love what Jocko does in this, which is, you know, like, accept responsibility. It's all your fault. Okay, let's start there.
That's not very nice. That's not what my mom told me.
Yeah, right? Well, when you take that responsibility and you say, like, look, I've got this important meeting or this stressful situation or whatever. First of all, if I can handle this when I'm hungry and I know I'm not optimal for me, and I didn't get my bulletproof fan, which is like all this stuff, but I'm still going to perform. This is I am going to beat this. I'm not going to let some shitty food thing screw with how I produce.
I remember years ago, one of the guys that was training with us, he was like, holy fuck, I forgot my pre-workout. And he drove back home and got his, I was thinking, what a fucking pussy. Like, he's he's not going to be here like for very long, you know? And he wasn't. It was kind of in and out. And it was just I marked that day. I was like, that guy doesn't have what it takes. Cause like, why the fuck do you need some purple ass drink to like wake you up for your training? Who cares?
I mean, that's a lifestyle change that needs to be fixed, right?
Right.
So yeah, I want you to be aware of those things so that you can take advantage. So sometimes I'm going to make sure I sleep 10 hours the night before, you know, I'll take a cold shower. We'll do all these things and I'll line myself up and then I just crush that day. Mm-hmm. But then I think there needs to be some days where you go like, I'm going to pick and I'm going to choose suffering today. And I'm not going to let that be an excuse to not perform. And I'm not going to play the card, I'm sorry, honey, I'm just really grumpy because I'm playing with this. Like, bullshit. If you can have that self-realization, get over it.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, get over it.
If you're self-aware enough to know that it's going on, you're self-aware enough to correct it.
Also,
right?
too,
Exactly. And just take the responsibility of being like, I am going to override this little bit of physiology because you can override a lot of those things.
Yeah.
And it's perspective, right? Because it's like, come on, we're talking about you're worried about losing 5 pounds so you can look a little bit better, and you're talking about not eating because we have the choice to we have a choice to do that. It's just a conscious choice that you can make because there's so much food surrounding us, and you're making a conscious decision of like, this will be healthier than me. But let's face it, our lives are pretty fucking cushy. There's an overabundance of food and opportunity and stuff around us all the time.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why another reason I like fasting and I like cold. Like, again, let's get in that cold bath, that 35-degree water for 3 minutes.
Let me ask you this question. Do you have like a virtue thing in your head about that? Do you feel virtuous while you're doing it? Because I think that a lot of people, if they do that stuff, that's why they do it. That's the feedback they get.
Yeah, I don't. Generally, I'm not kind of wired like that. Like, I'm not like, I don't get out and I'm not like super proud of myself.
You don't need to like celebrate it or post it or whatever.
but if people do that, that's great too. Like, I'm not, don't get me wrong at all. Like, I'm not
and I'm not making any value judgments about whether you feel that way or not.
But I'm going to be careful to make sure I'm not like, that is a good thing too.
Yeah.
Like, so what I just described, my own personal thing, is not a feature, it's a bug. Right? That feeling of virtue, that accomplishment, that's a good thing. That is a good driver a lot of the times. I don't necessarily feel that because I feel like I'm like, this is no different than the choice I made to wake up this morning when my alarm went up. It's no different than the choice I made to work today when I wanted to watch.
This is what I'm doing.
This is just what I do.
I know you've studied like muscle and power and strength. I mean, you can also train and change your willpower.
Absolutely.
I mean, you can make it more powerful.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
By the choices that you make and the things that you do.
So one of the reasons what I was going to is if you can go, oh God, like I really, really don't want to get in that ice water. And I mean, we see this, we've put a lot of people in it, and I've seen people just like get into panic mode where it's literally like touch their foot in and then freak out in Syrian. Natasha is a great example. She is she's super tough. Like nothing rattles her at all. She's a rock like that. But when we went to get into the ice one time, the first time she got in, like she went into like legit panic. Like panic. She's
like, it was petrified.
Terrified. She's just like, she was so worked up about it, right? But of course, because she's a savage, she got in.
She made herself.
And she gets in there and she's just dying the whole time. She's doing everything we're telling her not to calm down. And she gets her 3 minutes down. For like 3 days before, she knew this was happening. So she's just like, I don't want to do this. She's trying to make every excuse to not get in it right. And I don't say anything. I'm like, dude, make your choice. But she's a savage. So she does it anyways. She gets in. She does her second round in there, and it was a little bit better, but she's still panicking. By the third round, she gets in, and she's like, okay, it wasn't that bad. Well, she got sick as shit for like 3 days afterwards because she went to real panic town, and she was like, the whole gamut, got really sick afterwards. But I was so proud of her because I'm like, you chose suffering today, and I think you chose a little bit too much.
Right.
So we know where the curtain is now. Like we know where that is for her. I need to figure out though something that scares me that bad.
Yeah.
Because the ice doesn't do it for me. So I got to find. So I'm like working on other things.
Snake charming.
Whatever. Group showers.
Yeah, and I guess maybe that level of anxiety, could be too large. Maybe it's not something you're terrified of for the whole week, right?
Yeah, exactly. So now though, when she goes to do it the second time, it's not going to be as terrifying.
You could lie and be like, my greatest fear is eating peanut butter cups. Be like, oh man, tomorrow I got to eat all these peanut butter cups.
Boy, yeah,
it's going to be terrible.
Knock some of them fuckers out.
The standpoint I was bringing up like 30 minutes ago. Sorry, I lost track there. Is I think that when you can do something like that, so Natasha, the next time she has to deal with something stressful at work, she's going to look back and be like, oh, fuck, it wasn't as hard as that.
Yeah.
It's cake, right?
It's not going to be that hard.
Perspective.
Yeah, it
Really.
is perspective.
And anything that's a performance, in your job or lifting or anything else. I'm taking an improv class right now, and every time I have to get up there, every time I'm thinking I'm going to have to get up there, like really I panic, but I know it's going to be okay ultimately. But getting past that sensation of like standing up and walking up there every time, it's like, fuck. Like, why am I doing this to myself? I totally chose this. Like, there's no reason why I have to be here. I could fucking walk out of here right now and never come back, and it wouldn't impact anybody in the world.
Yeah.
And also, don't forget, you made the decision to work out. People that are bitching about like their exercise.
Yeah.
Don't be so grumpy. You made the decision to do it.
Right.
You're the one who chose it.
Yeah. So stick with it.
As a part of our process to get your PhD, you have to go through comprehensive exams. So you got 5 committee members. So in mine, 1 statistician, 1 physiology, 1 biology, 1 chemistry, and then another exercise physiology. And they get a full day, each one of them, with you. So you walk in Monday, and they give you like 2 or 3 questions. You're on a computer, and they stop you after 8 hours. So basically, you just write everything you know about physiology for 8 hours. And so by the end of the 5 days of that, like,
right.
Well, I mean, I grew up in the country. My dad built roads as a construction worker. He worked for his dad. I worked for him. My brother worked for him. Everybody I knew was up at 4 a.m. like working on things before they went to school. Like, so I remember getting into my program, and everyone just built this thing up because you do it your last year. So after 4 years or whatever, 3 years, and everyone's building it up. This is the most difficult thing you'll ever do. It's the hardest thing you ever. And well, the guy in front of me at the time was like 35, had 5 kids, had another full-time job. And I remember he finished, and he kind of like walked out of the room and was like, and I was like, is that hard? And he's like, I had a harder day last week. And I remember I finished it, I was like, I was playing the part, because part of it is like a rite of passage.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I'm smoked. But I walked out being like this, nothing compared to what I used to do.
Right.
Like those days waking up at 3 a.m., like this, when you're a construction worker and you say you work a 12-hour day, it's not like a 12-hour day like I work now where I'm like on Facebook for 3.5 hours of it.
Yeah.
Like a 12-hour day means shovel in the ground at 6. Shovel comes out of the ground at 12:30 or 12 for half an hour. It goes back in at 12:30. It is back in the ground till 6:30. That's a 12-hour day.
Yeah.
And then like you slow down in front of you, like you're getting screamed at or hit with a backhoe, like one of the two. So I'm like, I can look back on things like that. I'm like, okay, now I'm going to really complain because I haven't eaten since 8 a.m.
Right.
And I look about, like I mentioned the war thing earlier, but I got really inspired by in previous generations. Like, look at the shit that people, not 10,000 years ago, but like your parents.
Yeah.
Look at the physical stress and the discomfort they dealt with, especially those that are around in World War. And it's like, if you look at the obesity stuff, and if you look at the epigenetics of it from the world, world people that almost starved to death, had much healthier kids that have passed down. Now we've actually screwed some of that stuff.
Yeah.
So like, this is your parents who were probably extremely malnourished for years at a time,
Right.
who didn't have electricity or had one set of shoes, or like, these are
Right.
like, and now we complain because our air conditioner is broke for a day and a half. Like, we are a lot tougher than we think we can. So I think, yes, if we do touch those suffering a lot more and we choose that stuff, then it's very easy for me to come back and be like, all right, well, this experiment completely failed, which has happened. Like, we've spent 10 grand on an experiment or something, walk in, the power went out that day and the whole thing's ruined.
Oh my God.
Like, shit like that's happened. Like, this is
Right.
something bad's going to happen.
I've heard
right?
people say, even as far as you want to make people healthy, starve them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds wild, right? But
Yeah, I mean, it's not the caloric restriction, but it is like, let's really recalibrate our relationship with food. Like, that is, I think, the benefit of these things is we can really understand, do I really need that supplement? Oh, I'm really trashed today. Are you really trashed? Because I think you actually look pretty good. Like, there's people that were, yeah, you got a lot more in the tank here. So,
yeah, like I love hearing people say they're overwhelmed.
yeah.
Like, all right, well, that's you. I'm not fucking overwhelmed. I feel good. I want to take on more shit. I want to do more.
Yeah.
You know, do more, become more.
Well, unless you've got something major going on,
Life crisis is
feeling
totally
overwhelmed should be a short duration thing. Like,
Right.
I'm getting too much input right now.
Yeah.
And I'm not processing it well. I need a little bit of time to put this behind me. But
Yeah.
you know, if you're overwhelmed over a period of time, that's an emotional problem. That's
Yeah.
that's something you need to deal with another way.
And I think that, like, if you can step into the ice, for example, and you can, within a couple of seconds, control your breath again, and now you can make cognitive choices. Well, I think that becomes very easy when those short little bouts of overwhelm come up, and you can go, and you're about to freak off the hand, or you go,
I hate to be
all
cold.
right, here, like, I need a day and a half. Can I get back? I can't. Okay, I'm gonna lose the contract. Okay, I'm gonna accept that responsibility.
Right.
And okay, I understand your position. I didn't hold it, and just like own that. Like, you fucked up, or you did or whatever.
Right.
Fine. Like, move on. But we don't need to make this into a panic. Like, there's been worse shit that's happened or will happen.
Right.
You know, like, look at the people that just deal with all the flooding stuff and ruin homes and houses, and like,
And the
now
people-
you're bitched about you lost one contract. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
Jesus, like, get over it. It's not that big a deal.
Puerto Rico, that's not going to be Puerto Rico for probably 5 years.
That can't get any help.
Yeah.
Like,
40% of people don't have potable water, or is it only 40% of people do have
and
potable
it's like
water?
95 plus or something.
Yeah, it's
I mean, those people are suffering, and now you're again complaining because your traffic sucks.
And we're worried about hot and cold therapy.
yes.
Right.
'Cause like I said, I hate cold, but I'm dying to do it now. So
Get in, man. Get yourself over to the Starrettes. They got cool stuff going.
yeah,
Get a tub, dude. You got so much space there. You get a giant tub, get an industrial cold pool or a cold thing. It's not that expensive. Pop it up there, man.
our good friend Matt
We'll jump in a
Vincent,
tub together.
who bought a chest freezer.
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
and built a cold pool for himself in that. Cold
Yeah, I
bath.
could actually give you some exact models of what to use, and you can just unplug it when you get in, so you're not in a chest that's full of cold water and
Yeah.
you're plugged into electricity.
Yeah, that
Let's-
seems like a bad idea.
Let's unplug that. But yeah, that'll stay really nice and cold. That's what Brian does in Central Oregon.
Yeah.
That's
So
way cheaper.
what is some of the deal with cold and hot therapy?
That's another one where, I mean, there's just virtually zero research on. I mean, I say relative to other things. Like, so a little bit of research.
People have been like putting ice and heat on stuff for a long time, but not a lot of actual science behind it.
Yeah, I mean, relative.
Right.
Like, so there is some science. It looks like there is some pretty impressive physiological benefits to getting cold. But the details, how long, how often, how frequently do you have to do it? Well, it's, cryotherapy versus water. Looks like cold ice is best. But there's a lot of races to go. The other things like, well, what are you icing for? Because your knee hurts? Well, that's different than, did you just get out of, like, for example, one of the things that looks like happens is if you ice a muscle after a lift, that blocks the inflammatory response.
Some of what the muscle's supposed to do, probably.
So
right?
this is what we were talking about inflammation earlier. Good or bad? Well, you realize you don't adapt to that inflammation.
Right.
Like, inflammation is the signal to adapt. So if you take all your anti-inflammatories and you get in an ice bath and you have a super high antioxidant diet, you're not going to get any bigger. How could you?
Right.
So maybe you don't do it then. But at the same token, there's been some papers that have come out showing that it actually increases mitochondrial density. shit.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like, what to do.
Right.
Maybe when you're trying to get muscle mass, don't I supposed to work out? But maybe when you're trying to improve your conditioning, maybe you do.
I have noticed, using my hot tub and using my pool, especially in the wintertime. I don't know if the pool is like on par with how cold it's supposed to be, but it
Probably
feels
not.
pretty fucking cold. Yeah, it might be like 50 degrees or 60 degrees.
That's way too hot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
unless you're in there for like 40 minutes.
I'm sure, but the contrast is pretty solid. But
Yeah.
in any case, if I was to just go into my pool, or if I was just to go into my hot tub, I feel similar.
Yeah.
You know, what's happening to me, I don't know. I also use cryotherapy from time to time. When I use cryotherapy, when I come home from the gym after a long squatting and deadlifting session, particularly after deadlifting, my body feels really stiff.
Yeah,
It's hard for me to
yeah.
even bend down and pick anything up for a while.
Yeah.
When I use the cryotherapy, I can run up and down my stairs. I feel more mobile. I feel a little bit better. And it's, to me, it doesn't feel like it's just mental. I literally feel different. And the same thing occurs when I come out of my hot tub. So when I'm on my drive home, I'm like, maybe I'll go in the cryo chamber today, or maybe I'll go in and I just do it.
How do I argue with that?
Right.
Like, how do I tell you, no, you don't? No, you don't. Like, the science says you don't feel any better.
Right. You're
what?
producing tons of estrogen by doing that, and you're getting
Exactly.
huge tits.
Man boobs coming.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's great. Like, I've done all those things before. I tend to do more of the ice water.
Right.
That's just because, like, the cryotherapy was like, okay, but I'll put it this way. People that do a lot of cryotherapy, we've had some of those folks get in the water and struggle. And I've
Right.
never seen somebody who does a lot of water struggle in cryotherapy.
Right.
I don't know if that means anything at all.
Right.
Probably doesn't mean anything. But, like, put it this way. If I had a cryotherapy in my backyard, I'd probably use it a lot.
Right. Do you think the stress could be too great, perhaps, from getting so cold?
Absolutely. When you mean with the cryo?
With either one.
Yeah.
Either
If
one,
you get too cold, for sure. Like, if you're there shivering, like, uncontrollably, get out.
Right.
Like, you've gone way too long. So there are also maybe some person-to-person differences too. So maybe if the cryotherapy's more difficult for you, then maybe that's better. I mean, I don't know. Like,
Right.
my general answer at this point, if you're looking for recommendation, is, well, why not use all of them?
Right.
Who knows? There's probably something cryotherapy is doing that cold water is not doing.
Yeah.
But you don't know. I don't know. Maybe try it once a week.
Right.
I don't think, like, again, I just have a problem when people are like, oh, cryotherapy isn't the new thing. You don't need to do anything else. Get rid of your complex, get rid of all your other recovery stuff, and just do this every day after your work. Like, okay, now we've gone back into this thing we keep talking about, which is you've gone to an extreme, and that's just not how it works.
It's going to be, within the next year or so, probably 2018, you're going to see all these places, Massage Envy, cryotherapy, doesn't matter what it is. They're all going to adapt, and they're all going to have whatever it is that they promote. They'll probably have the exact opposite in there as well to try to suck in more people to add more value to their brand and add more value to what they're providing. Because even when I first saw a cryotherapy chamber facility, I was like, man, that's kind of cool, but I wish they had a couple other things in there for recovery too. And some of them have like a little bit of a gym setting and stuff. You could warm up and so on, but it'd be nice to just see them adapt and just whatever new gadgets are out, complex units and so on, just have all of it there. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not use everything?
Right. Like, imagine if you had a facility that you could walk into, had echinacea and a Swedish massage going on, and then they had a cryotherapy, and then they had a pool. They had all these things. You're like, I'm gonna go there.
Sweat lodge.
Kind of
Whatever.
pamper the fuck out of you, kind of.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
there are places like that now that do exist, but I think that places like Massage Envy, which have, I think, something like 1 million active members or something like that.
Jeez.
It's fucking crazy. They don't have enough massage therapists to make the business model actually work. And
So adding other modalities would
but
help.
they do have the space.
Yeah.
Especially here in California, for some reason, there's a shortage of.
I think you need to rent another building, and we need to start a new business.
Yeah.
Actually, there's quite a bit of space in here. We could probably duck some in. Imagine.
Give us a
what do you
couple
think
weeks.
you feel like?
Are you
if
trying to move in?
I might. If you walked in, got like acupuncture, massage, and some essential oils, hot, cold therapy, then cryo, then maybe another massage, and then like mobility stuff and
Some hot stones.
hot stones. Like, you'd walk out of there like, oh, that's what's up.
Yeah, it'd be
You
great.
feel amazing.
Yeah, full service.
You know what executives would pay for that?
You
lot,
walk
yeah.
in one end and you're just on a fucking conveyor belt. And they're just tacking you with fucking needles, and they flip you over and they shove their thumb up your ass. And oh wait, sorry.
I may be late to this party, but
After that.
but I just found out that like in Vegas, you can use an app and get an IV and oxygen therapy for your hangover.
Sure. Yeah.
Wow.
That is phenomenal. They just come to your hotel room and they spike you with
All
an
kinds
IV.
of shit you can get in Vegas.
That's nuts.
When USADA or WADA banned the IV use for fighters, that about single-handedly ruined Conor McGregor's career.
Oh yeah.
I'm just kind of teasing, but he was like, he used those a lot. I'll just put it that way when he was out in Vegas.
Yeah.
Like he used that a lot. It's like, oh, we got to retrain. You got to redesign your training program, Conor, now.
I kind of heard that all that shit still goes on if it's not being closely monitored. Not necessarily with Conor, but just
is.
period. Yeah.
For
I've,
sure.
I've heard that.
There's ways that you can get around it with glass and things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyways.
Post-workout window. We just need to finish that off, and I think we're out of here.
Dude, okay. So
Is there like a supplement, or are there some things that are maybe man-made? Like I mentioned fruit juices or whatever.
okay, yes.
Something that's faster acting that can get in your system that's more effective
That's
or whatever.
like the fourth or fifth time you've brought us back to Earth. Good job.
It's all those ketones, bro.
I think you had been hosting a show for 4 years or something.
Yeah, it's like you're a professional at this. So we can talk about the glycemic index, right? Is an easy way. So generally we say, hey, glycemic index are foods that spike your blood sugar.
Yeah.
All right, so let's forget about the glycemic load. Let's just give that. Okay, so whatever. We take a food that spikes your blood sugar. Same trick. I do trick my students with this every semester. Okay, good or bad? And I'll go, bad. I go, wait a minute. Well, I'm at work, and I'm trying to get to a meeting, probably a bad thing, right? I'm on the road, and I'm nodding off, falling asleep. Maybe this is a good thing. I'm trying to recover post-workout. I want to maximize recovery. Maybe that's a good thing now. Maybe at night before we go to whatever. So
Because you mentioned earlier that carbohydrates help with protein synthesis, correct?
Exactly, and this is
And so
where
maybe
the
we can
whole
start that
idea
going.
of the 4-to-1 post-exercise recovery, which is 4 parts carbohydrate, 1 part protein,
Okay.
which is no magical number, by the way. It doesn't matter if it's 4-to-1 or 2-to-1 or 5-to-1 or
Bill Phillips made that up.
whatever, right?
Probably.
So, but the rationale is fine. It's like maybe we do choose carbohydrate sources that are a little bit more spiking. If you're dehydrated, for example, you better believe we don't just like go to sweet potatoes post weight cut. So I'm talking, I've got athletes that are now cutting, 10 to 16 pounds of water in a couple of days. I have got to spike their blood sugar immediately off the scale, or they're not going to rehydrate. I'm not going to just I can't put them on paleo. I have got to use fruit juice and things like that to spike their blood sugar, because that's actually going to drive water into the cell to maximize hydration.
And they got 24 hours to
Exactly. They have a time
Rehydrate,
limit
yeah.
here, and every second counts. And if I go too crazy, though, they're going to shit themselves.
Yeah.
Because they just dump this
feel like crap as
600 grams of carbohydrate in their stomach, and they haven't had 600 grams in the last 2 weeks. Like, they're going to just go crapping.
Yeah.
So post-workout would be the same thing. Yeah, maybe if we're trying to, we got a really hard workout where we really need to either recover because we got to train again tomorrow or tonight, or we really think, like, we just smoked it there, I got to recover. Maybe we go to some higher glycemic index or blood spiking options. If you pass out, like, what do they give? What do paramedics and EMTs give people that pass out at the end of a marathon? They
Sugar, right?
run up there and give them apple
D5
juice.
or
Yeah.
apple
Shit
juice.
like that, right? Whatever, like
Yeah.
all that stuff. Well, that would be the
I was
IV
gonna say
option.
mouth to
D5,
mouth.
right? Yeah, that too.
Andy passed out quick
Exactly. I'm gonna pass out on purpose now. I'm gonna pass out, Mark.
again.
It's at,
I'm passing it.
Sandlot. Like, great. Yeah. So. Yeah,
So
it
in the
depends on
context of some post-workout,
Yeah.
you probably utilize some of that with your athletes.
Well, let's just be careful. Like, if we're doing that all the time, we're walking around all day sucking down Gatorades.
Yeah.
We're not like, probably don't need that either.
No.
Probably not going to help.
So a long time, but not always applied feature of this show is iron cred. So I'm not going to ask you powerlifting numbers but tell us about your weightlifting.
So I competed in the 69 kilo class, and my best competition number is 110 snatch and about 134 clean and jerk. So the goal was always 1.5 times body weight snatch, double body weight clean and jerk. And I was a kilo or so short of that, but pretty close.
Nice.
But I did win a national championship in football in college,
Damn.
so I can hang that one too. And I got, I think, 7th place in 2007 or 2008 in weightlifting national
What
championships.
year was the football championship?
2004.
And what team?
Linfield College, so small college stuff.
Cool.
Yeah.
So
It's still fucking
D3.
awesome, though.
Yeah. Yep.
It must have been great to be part of that.
You know what's funny? It was like not that cool, which is really funny because, like, if I would have won a state championship in high school, would have been probably the coolest thing in my life.
Right.
But when I got to college,
You cared less.
I didn't give a shit about my teammates.
Mm.
I didn't get along with any of them. They all hated me because I was like, I mean, you sort of saw my personality by now. And they were all really, they were prima donnas. They were super style over substance. And I hated all that shit. And so, like, I'm dealing with all of you because I have a means to an end. But I swear to God, the second the buzzer hit at the end of the fourth quarter of that national championship game, I was like,
I'm out.
I remember seconds afterwards being like, fuck, man, like, I don't even care.
What position did you play?
I played safety. So, like, I went up, my family was there, and, like, beside him, but I was like, all right, let's get out of here. Like, I didn't care about any of those people. I wasn't in any, like, the post.
That's a good position for someone who doesn't care about the rest of the team to be in.
Yeah.
You know, not too bad. You don't have to
Well, like,
be all that coordinated with everybody. You
I
know?
cared about success and all those things, right? So,
Right.
But I hated it, man. Like, they all bitched about going to practice.
Right.
I'm like, dude, do you know how many times in my front yard I played like 7-on-7 with people? Like, this is what I would kill to do as a kid.
Yeah. You get everybody together and whacking the shit out of each other.
Yeah, and we're out here like we're doing one-on-one drills and like this is the stuff I dreamed of doing as a kid, and you're bitching and whining about this, and
Right.
you're like, hey, like I didn't understand that, so I hated those guys.
This is
I'm like,
supposed to be fun.
yeah, like I love this stuff, and like they all wanted the success and the like they wanted to look good in their uniform and shit like that. And I'm like, dude, like let it rain, let's get mud out here, let's hit motherfuckers, like let's do this. But anyways, yeah, so that was the street cred, and I've also never lost a jiu-jitsu tournament I've ever been in.
Yeah.
So put it that way.
All right.
Awesome. How long you
Yeah.
been doing jiu-jitsu for?
I haven't done any in like 6 years since I moved to California, but I did it a little bit, basically like 3 to 4 years, something
Cool.
like that. It's kind of one of those things where like you jump in, jump out
Yeah.
quite a lot. Actually just did it for the first time again like a week ago, and I'm just blown to pieces right now. From
Yeah, you said your knees all
my
jacked
knee's
up.
not moving, and a bunch of other things, but that's part of the game.
Any epic poop stories for us?
That's another feature of this program.
Epic poop stories.
From somebody you helped and they're like, dude, like you told me to eat those
Oh,
beets and
well-
I blew it out, or you have an epic poop story of your own, or because you tried keto or you tried this or tried that, and it's just
I never ask for questions prior to a podcast. Even when they send them over, I'm like, I don't even look at them. So
Yeah, I
in the
never
future,
do
if I
either.
do your podcast, don't even bother. Like, I'm not going to look at it. I wish I would have been prepped on that one. I don't know if I have any epic ones, with the exception
there's somebody
of,
listening right now that you helped and they're like, dude, he blew me out.
yeah, I have. I did have one particular athlete for a world title. I think a world title. He was doing. Same thing. It's like way too many carbohydrates. It was the first time I'd been in that guy's camp.
Yeah.
And so you don't know, like I don't have like anyone that gives you like, here's a prescription, you do
Right.
3 grams per milliliter, like you're full of shit. Do not fool that. Well, I started a pretty conservative thing, and it was like the time from the weigh-in to like time on, it's like I hope I can
Crushed
get it all
him.
out before. Yeah, like it was not pretty. I was like, my bad, my bad. It's like I thought it was a pretty low dose, but we had to go even lower. Like he just didn't process it. So
What's something somebody does pre-fight, like the fights in 4 to 6 hours? Like what can you consume? Probably not a lot, right?
man, this is a great example of if you two were both fighting in 6 hours.
It's very touchy, right?
Dude, you might be eating 4,000 calories, and you might be eating a full meal, and you might have half a banana and a
Right.
protein shake. So I really try to work with them, saying like, what do you feel? And obviously, the more food you can get in, like that window is generally better. But like obviously, you put down 2,000 calories of biscuits and gravy, like it ain't gonna feel good.
Right.
So
You want
yeah,
something
it's tough.
fast, something that's going to be utilized during the fight itself, probably, right?
When we generally use, like, it's not complicated fruits and vegetables.
Right.
A little bit of lean
Stuff
protein
you're used to.
Stuff
not,
you're very
not
used
anything
to.
that you've never eaten before or whatever the hell.
No extra sriracha. Like,
All right.
none of those things we put in there. And we just try to keep it very, very simple. And a lot of them are not eating much,
Right.
especially things like that. It's a lot of liquid diet stuff too. So protein carbohydrate mix. I use Brian McKenzie's company 3 Fuel, like extensively.
It's a starch or what is it called?
Yeah, resistant starch.
Resistant starch.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It keeps blood glucose like really solid, and it digests very, very, very well. It's fast. It's super simple ingredients. So a little bit of coconut fat. So for some medium short chain fats, and then a little bit of grass-fed whey hydroxylate stuff, and that resistant starch. It seems to sit very well in the stomach,
Right.
and it keeps like hunger satiating, keeps you away. So most of the athletes I work with are using that, and we tend to have kind of one of those. And if they need more, we'll snack on nuts or whatever, oranges, like little things like that. But it's generally not much at that window. Some of them don't eat the whole day, basically.
Yeah.
Like some of them eating full meals.
Yeah, there's so many nerves going on. It's anything they put in there is going to kind of throw them off a little bit, right?
Exactly. And you don't want to feel heavy. Like you can feel a little bit heavy weightlifting, maybe powerlifting. I don't know.
Probably getting knocked out, right?
Yeah, you feel heavy on your feet with a heavy stomach, and someone's punching you in your stomach and kneeing you in the stomach. Like it's not a good feeling.
Powerlifters are stupid about how they bring their weight back up after weight cuts.
How do they?
Yeah.
Because it's like it's pizzas, it's Pop-Tarts, it's cookies, and then they eat the same shit all day of the meat too, which is also
And they need
super
loads
terrible.
of caffeine to try to make it through the whole meat, and it's just it's a nightmare.
Yeah, that's
It's a hot mess.
It's a limitation, and especially with caffeine. It's sort of like, all right, well that's great, but now you're just going to have to keep going up. And like, when are you going to stop chasing that dragon?
Right.
Like, let's see if you can. What do you think would happen if you took and made caffeine illegal for one powerlifting meet?
If you tested for
Yeah.
caffeine,
People would be,
oh, I don't know. And nobody would deadlift. Everybody would just go home after the bench. They just fucking
people would
walk
just be
out.
yawning, and they'd lift 100 pounds less. I
Yeah.
think. Where can people find it, Andy?
Well, the book Unplugged is up. Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all that stuff. Evolve from technology to upgrade your fitness, consciousness, performance, and consciousness. So it's a book about how to really use and not misuse training technologies. So that's up anywhere you can find it.
I know
Well,
you
people would be-
you recommend the hardcover.
Yeah. I mean, part of it is it's a book about how to not misuse technology. So if
Right.
you're then reading it on your Kindle,
The ebook, yeah.
you can do whatever you want. But we put a lot of time and effort. It's a very high quality pages and all that stuff. But the pictures are very specific, and the way it's orchestrated, it just fits much better as a
Lots of BMAC wearing almost nothing.
Yeah, well, there's lots of shirtless pictures of Brian.
Yeah.
McKenzie is the
A
way.
lot of dick
which
pics
is
in there.
what we're all looking for, really.
Yeah.
And it's actually funny because we probably had one picture of him in the book, and he just demanded we have more pictures of him without a shirt on. He just refused. He said,
He
"We're
was
not
like, hey,
going
we
to
need
Paris until we-"
15
minimum
shirtless pictures.
Exactly.
I need to do 11 photo shoots right now.
Yeah, it's actually the whole budget, the whole profit went directly to photo shoots.
All
for him
those
with his shirt
location
off.
shoots.
That's all he wanted.
Yeah.
Every social media post is just him with his shirt off. That's all he-
Book trying to just get you more in tune with like kind of learning the process of fitness rather than like you just teaching it to somebody and it just disappears from the brain sort of thing.
Exactly. It's some of the things that we sort of touched on here, but it's
Right.
everything from using a mirror to a force plate to a Fitbit to a heart rate monitor, things like that. We don't really cover those like specifically. I mean, we do, but with some more of like, here's how these things can help, and then here's how people misuse them, or here's how they get people
Right.
off track. And so we use some of those as examples.
A mirror is actually a really interesting thing because as powerlifters, we were kind of taught like to not have one.
Yeah. So
But
this is,
that doesn't actually make any sense.
So
like
just-
watching yourself lift, especially like with heavier weights, I get it. Like, yeah, you should just be concentrating. You should just probably feel it. But with 100 pounds in there, just whatever was light to you, moving around and going, why is my left knee just caving in like that, but my right's going out?
So that's a fantastic intuitive example of something that you found over, and that's exactly the type of stuff we talk about. Is let's just stop having rules about never use technology or always use them. It's not an anti. As much as I was giving you shit about your Fitbit earlier, it's not. We're not against these things. I'm not saying take it all away and just like
Right.
training your socks naked in the jungle. Like, no, but it is saying let's be diligent and conscious about when we use a mirror.
Right.
If we're having a problem, we should know what a benefit of a mirror could be, and then let's go to the mirror if that problem comes up. Or same thing with the Fitbit, right? Whatever. But let's also not outsource our coaching and our intelligence and our own physiology to this
Right.
technology, as we've talked about, which is not necessarily very accurate.
A video.
Yeah,
Video can show you that you're lifting like an idiot too.
right. It could also be misused, right?
Yeah.
So if
Can
you're
be.
relying,
Video can totally lie.
it
And
can
your video
lie.
doesn't tell you everything. Yeah, it doesn't tell you everything you need to know.
doesn't understand context. It also doesn't understand. I mean, picture you're trying to teach somebody to box squat, and you're using a video to show them, right? And if the only way they can reproduce that good technique is when they get the tactical feedback from the video, then they don't actually understand that position.
Right.
Yeah.
They don't own that movement. They'll never use it when they walk out of this gym. They'll never, ever use it in meet. They'll never use it when they get tired, when they have to make choice. When other stressors start coming in, they're not going to really own that stuff. So,
And we've learned the video doesn't show you the nuances. You know, if somebody's squatting 800 pounds,
yeah.
almost every single time it will look easy on video.
Yeah.
Almost every time.
And it
In
lifts
real
always
life,
look
you're
faster.
watching it, you're like, you're going to have a heart attack just watching the guy try to get through the lift because
Yeah,
there's a
it's
lot
like
of
shaking everywhere.
Yeah, there's a lot of that, and you don't see any of that in the video.
Yeah, exactly. So we just want people to understand, and we do have, Brian wrote a training program in there for like elite, middle, sort of advanced, but it's really not a training book at all. We do have prescriptions in there about like the fasting, like how much, how to try it, for people to start, for cold, all these things. Tim Ferriss wrote a section for it about like his top 8 ways to use technology and not use technology with his training. And Stephen Kotler wrote section like his 10 ways to get into flow better, which is like focus and get in the zone. So we had some pretty awesome people.
Where's Brian live now?
Central Oregon.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think he was in NorCal for a while, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Now he was down in Orange County for a while, but now he's back in the wilderness in the middle of nowhere. Out there, man.
He probably loves it, right?
Oh, he's having a great time. So,
all right, I think that's it for this epic podcast. Might stick this thing into two.
It's probably going to be 2.
Yeah, two episodes. Multiply your hustle, multiply your muscle, and may all your shits be tapered. I'm at Mark Smelly Bell on Instagram and Twitter. Later.
Shout out to all of our sponsors, Precision Nutrition. Go to get.pn/PowerCast for your free course on largely on the use of carbs in your diet. 8-Man Apparel at 8manstrong.com, Reebok.com, home of the legacy lifting shoe, the official shoe of the PowerCast, CompexUSA.com. Get 28 additional % off with the code PowerCast. Bodybuilding.com for all of your supplement needs. HowMuchYouBench.net, Mark Bell's Slingshot. Use the code PowerCast, get 15% off Slingshots, and Power, the only strength magazine available in both digital and print at thepowermagazine.com. I am at the Jim McD on all the social media. Follow the show on Instagram. We are at Mark Bell's PowerCast, and we are out of here.
Thank you.
sweet.